Hello. How's it going out there? Doug Cunnington, and this is the weekly live stream, and I'm a few minutes late, so sorry about that. I was actually recording a podcast for my other show, Mile High Fi. There's a link in the description there, so you can check that out if you want to. But welcome. I see we have Cyprian, we got Paul as well, and we also have Daniel. So what's going on, everybody? Let me know if you could hear me. And we don't have a big agenda today. I went to a cookout yesterday, and I got back I had a couple beers. I'll be honest with you, I had a couple beers there, and I woke up today and I thought, oh man, I'm supposed to do a live stream that gets you on the on the long weekends here in the U.S. I know many of us are in different locations, but yeah, here in the U.S. is July 4th holiday yesterday. So a lot of people were off of work or had cookouts or parties or barbecues, as some other people say, across the world. And we have Adrian on, we have Shah, Godfrey, what's up? Zach as well. Karthos, and people can hear me, so that's great. And yeah, we're just going to chat and basically answer questions if you have them. I'll tell stories. And it was a good cookout. It was a good situation there. And I actually brought over some egg rolls, or it's called lumpia. It's a Filipino like meat. Well, I put meat in it, but we put beef and pork, and it's these great little fried egg rolls. So I brought over some of those. It's a bit of a undertaking to make those. So you have to, wrap each one of the egg rolls, and then you fry them. And we don't have like a dedicated frying station. So I do like to fry outside, so grease doesn't go all over the house. But that took up some time yesterday, and people ate them up. I should have made probably twice as many. They were gone before I knew it, which is typically how it goes with the lumpia. And I'm just curious, who out there has had lumpia before? Again, Filipino dish. Jim is on, and yeah, happy 4th of July for everyone out there. So before we get into it too deep here, number one, if you have questions, please ask, so that we have something to talk about. Otherwise, I'll keep telling random stories that are unrelated to anything, which we can do. That's totally fine. We have a couple things in the description here that I want to tell you about. So number one, if you want to get notified for these, you can follow the link in there and get YouTube notifications for before I go live. Now, the funny thing is, because today sort of snuck up on me just a little bit, I actually didn't even send out an email today. So the email list that you sign up for allows you to get an email from me before I go live, usually 1 hour before. Occasionally I miss it, much like today. And the other thing is to thank the sponsors. So one is Ezoic, and you should check out their tool Leap. It'll help your site load faster and get green and core web vitals. And you can join Ezoic without any traffic. There's no traffic minimum. It's good if you got a little bit of traffic, but the thing is, you can start using the tools right away, like Leap. So you can follow that link to access now to get in and get enrolled with Ezoic. The other is Odys, and that's a place that you can get premium age domains. You could check it out, and you could actually join using my link, my affiliate link there, and you can get $100 into your account. And if you buy something, I may get a commission. My feature is on there as an expert. So there's some domains that I've featured in the past, and you could check that out. And they sponsor these. So, all right. Daniel says, my partner is Filipino, and you had the unfortunate opportunity to try balut. I've never tried balut before, but I know what it is. And I've seen it. I went to the Philippines one time. It was a long time ago, right out of high school. But I saw some street vendors selling balut out there, and it didn't look that great. People can Google it if they're interested. Oh, and Jim says you love lumpia. Yeah, it's so unhealthy, but so delicious. One thing I did, and this is, I don't know if other people have done it or if you can get them out there, but lumpia is typically like a savory dish. Again, it's a little meat egg roll. You could put veggies in there, I guess, if you wanted to, but typically it's meat, pork or beef. But we had a couple extra wrappers left. So we put in banana and chocolate and then fried those. That was really good. I think that'd be great on like ice cream and stuff like that. And okay, so we are starting to get some questions, but yes, we can go the non-SEO story route if we need to. ASIM says, important factors to consider when we target any informational keyword to rank in Google top 10 results. Important factors. So I would say, the important factors is to have low competition. So typically, a great way to go through this is find, sort of the main, we'll call it like a seed keyword. So you get that, and then you find some long tail derivations of that keyword idea. Maybe it's how to, maybe it's informational topics where there's more like sort of background information or someone asks a specific type of question. When you dive down and you see the people also ask section and then the related searches, typically those are very good to go after, especially as you go further down the line. So generally the important factor is low competition through looking for long tail keywords. You could analyze the competition a little bit more, but generally if you follow that, you should find sort of pockets of keywords that look pretty good to you. And oh yeah, Rick says you made lumpia and it's a great finger food. You should try it with a sweet chili sauce. Yeah, it's great. What the sauce that I made yesterday was soy sauce with white vinegar and garlic, black pepper. So that's what I brought yesterday. And I was out of the sweet chili sauce, or I just had a little bit, so I just left it at home. I didn't bring it. Shaw says, how it's your first time here. You want to know how often I do live sessions? Usually each week, usually at this time, 11:30 on Tuesdays. And it fits perfectly because usually Alex Cooper at WP Eagle goes live right when I finish. The tough part, and the reason why I was a little bit late today, is I often record podcasts with my podcast partner, not every week, but often on Tuesdays. So if we run a little bit long, it causes me to be a couple minutes late, which it turns out is probably okay. So we finished. I'm glad we recorded what we did today. We got a lot of episodes done, and it's great to have several in the bank. So. But yeah, I do the live sessions each week, and you should sign up for the notifications, which it's the first link in the description here. As the other thing I want to point out, people have been asking about what gear I use, right? Because the video quality looks good, right? And I can show you actually. So this camera that I'm using here is a Canon RP, and I'm using a Sigma 18 to 35 1.8, and it looks great. The image would look pretty much the same if I was using my older camera, which is a T7i. And it would probably look the same if I used a T5i or even a T2i. It would look just like this because the lens is really what's making it look good, and some lighting. So there's a light over here and there's one over here as well. And I'll show you what a normal webcam looks like. And I'm using, the other one is a Logitech. I think it's like a 920. Oh, the focus goofed up there. So I'll switch over to the other camera right there. So it still looks pretty good, but not quite as good. The background isn't blurred like it was, but the lighting's pretty good, and this looks fine. But when you switch it over to the DSLR, you get the blurred background and everything's just a little bit sharper. It's also a zoom, so not that you want to like zoom in and get close, but we could do it that way. I'd have to get a little shorter here. I kind of like the wide angle myself. The reason why I'm mentioning this is I have a link in the description now of the gear that I use, and I actually set it up a while back. And if you head over, it's kit.co/Doug Cunnington, and then there's a link in the description here, so you can see the exact gear that I use. And kit is, I'm not sure the exact, corporate structure or whatever, but it's very closely associated with Genius Link. So I actually interviewed Jesse Lakes, the founder of Genius Link, or one of the co-founders, and he talks about the acquisition of Kit. But anyway, the point is, you can check out the gear that I use. Almost every week now, people are asking, hey, what camera are you using? What gear is it? And if I had to say like the main thing, it is certainly the lens. And there are other lenses that you could use that would also look good, but this particular one is, versatile, and it keeps, the focus is now jumping around a little bit. So basically, this lens looks great. The lighting's important, but that's an easy thing to solve. You get some big box light things like this one. Like that. And I just put it a little off camera there, so you get a little bit of it's like a slight backlighting, but it gives sort of a highlight, so it provides a little more depth. And sometimes I have this small ring light here that I can just get a little fill if I need to, and it can change colors if we needed to. All right, and let's see here. We did get some questions, so we'll get back on topic here. Oh, nice, a lot of questions. Awesome. Okay, let's get back to it. And a Nomad Overseas says, you're planning on heading to the Philippines in August, and you haven't been since 2019, so you're looking forward to getting back there. And I went in 1997, so it was like a different world as far as I understand. So I had some family members that went back multiple times over the years, and yeah, they were like, it's completely different than it was when we were there in 97. John, what's going on? You said you loved the interview with Rob. Yeah, that was the most recent interview. People should check that out. It was a fun one to do. It's good to catch up with Rob. Sam says that you're late. You're cooking dinner while you're joining, and thanks for hopping in. All right, Abu says, how many keywords should be targeted initially for a niche site? So I think what you're asking is how many keywords do you need to find? And it's a personal decision, but I would say if you could find 15 or 20 keywords, that's enough to get started. Of course, you'll want to find more in the future, but I would say if you find 15 or 20, you could probably find 15 or 20 more a few more times, maybe a few hundred in the future if you want to. So you just need a handful. You don't need to find 1,000 keywords before you get started. You don't need to find 100 keywords. You just need enough to get started so you can do the next step that you need to work on and go from there. So if you think of it that way, it's not as overwhelming. Some people think you need to have a ton. But I'm curious, what do you think out there? Whether you're watching live, let me know in the chat, or if you're watching the replay, leave a comment, let us know what you think. How many keywords do you like to have when you're getting started with your site? Walter Dunphy, what's up? And Godfrey says, is there really future in affiliate marketing and niche sites? Seems like everyone I talk to is giving up, especially after the May core update. Seems like most of the gurus were hit and sound hopeless. So is there a future? I would say yes. There's probably always going to be some affiliate marketing and niche sites. And I would say, I don't know which gurus you were talking about. I don't know who sounds hopeless, but just a little tip. You probably don't want to listen to people that sound hopeless. So find some new people to follow. And maybe they're a little more upbeat and positive. So, however, I mean, I think there's a future. I don't suggest that affiliate marketing and niche sites are right for everyone, or YouTube, or blogging in general, or podcasting. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever, Etsy printables. You can do, what are some other business models? You can write Kindle books. You can build websites. You can resell stuff on eBay. You can find clearance stuff and then resell it. You can buy shit from garage sales and resell that stuff. So anything can work. You can do whatever. Affiliate marketing will be fine. Things are going to shift. They always change. But yeah, overall, if you're following people that sound helpless, find other people. That's the overview. Sonia says, how do you prepare your site for Mediavine? I'm not sure. I haven't used Mediavine besides the 50,000 requirement and audience geography. What else should I focus on not to get rejected? Unsure. Never used Mediavine. Ezoic sponsors these, so I am uninitiated. But I would say, just in a general sense, if you have a high quality site with traffic and you're meeting the criteria, you're probably in good shape, especially if you have a good growth trajectory, like I think you'll probably be fine. But certainly consult the experts at Mediavine, and maybe other materials on their blog can help you out. Igor, what's up? Adrian, thanks for posting the link. You can check that out in the description there. Asim says, what's the future of AI content? You're working on it a bit, but your observation is that Google ranks every type of content unless and until it solves the user problem. Does AI content have any future? I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of AI content, but I would say the eventual future of AI is taking over. That's the only logical conclusion. They start building their own machines. They suck the life force out of our body. There's a documentary I watched called The Matrix. It's actually, I think, a trilogy, maybe even a fourth one came out, but I think that is what we're heading for as far as AI content. Oh, Alex is on. Alex says a bit more yellow, white balance is off on the DSLR. Oh. Yeah, the white balance is maybe off on the DSLR. Oh, it could be. Yeah, it could be. I wonder, I could play with it on here, but yeah, I don't know. I know when I looked around a couple times, I was like, yeah, sometimes it looks a little too yellow, but okay. And John says guitar is ready for playing. Yeah, I haven't played as much in the last couple days, but yeah, we'll bust it out in a bit. And Jim says you just started a new website with an age domain from Odys. When should you start monetizing? Should you start with Ezoic from the beginning or wait for a good amount of traffic? Cool. Well, glad you hooked it up with Odys. Another plug for Odys. And I would say typically what I do is I wait until I get a little bit of traffic. So even if it's just, 20, 30 visitors per day, something like that, just so there's something going on. But if you wanted to start a little bit sooner, then I think that would be okay. And Cyprian said, somebody already started talking about AI. You wanted to ask Doug what my thoughts are on an AI-driven camera focus modes, just so you could bring up his gear name, AI. Yeah, it does a pretty good job, but more and more I'm turning it on just manual focus. So I lock it in and then it doesn't hunt around anymore. I do have the lens quite wide open, so I kind of have to stay like right in the right spot. So it's in focus here, but if I move back just a little bit, I'm out of focus, or if I move in, I'm out of focus. So it's really, I have to stay right here, which is fine. Although I stand up to do these, I usually work at the standing desk here. See? And I tend to move around a little bit more. If I was just sitting, maybe I wouldn't move as much, but I know I got my little standing mat here, so I could just stay put. Adam says, currently running Ezoic ads, but now you qualify for Mediavine. Should you make the switch? What would be the determining factors for analysis? So keep in mind, again, Ezoic does sponsor these, so I'm completely biased, but the right way to do this would be to test. Every site's going to react differently. I don't know the overhead from an admin standpoint, but the best way to do it is get data with Ezoic. Try another, supplier. Try another company. See what happens with Mediavine. Make sure you have enough data to compare, but you may find that you like working with one company more than the other. Maybe one is a clear winner, and then you could just use the one that you want to. There could be other factors involved, but I suspect the specific one is how much you're going to earn, right? You're not doing it for a hobby. So you can just test and see what's going on. Blog Sprout, speaking of the Philippines, you're thinking of getting a VA from there. Any tips? So I'm thinking of getting a VA from the Philippines as well. I don't have any super specific tips on hiring someone from the Philippines. One thing culturally to keep in mind is, depending on who you hire, they may be less likely to make sort of decisive decisions. So you may want to give them super clear guidelines, super clear flows on when they can make decisions and what you're looking for, and kind of have an open dialogue where you may really point out, hey, at this point, you may not know what to do, but here are 3 of the options. You could choose one, and then afterwards we'll have a discussion and figure out, how did that work out? Should you make that same decision? So it's kind of a learning process. But other than that, having really clear procedures, standard operating procedures, SOPs, will make it really helpful. And you should, along the way, try to get feedback from anyone that you hire. The other piece from, hiring someone is there's a good chance that you can get just the person that you need, but you'll have to invest more time in interviewing and chatting. And someone asked what a VA is. It's a virtual assistant. So if you spend a little more time interviewing and making sure the person has the skills that you need them to have, you may be in a better position to hire someone that you don't have to train as much. I think at this point in time, you probably should be able to hire someone who has the core skills that you need them to do. You may have to teach them some of the specifics that you need, but you shouldn't have to train someone on how to use WordPress, for example. You should be able to hire someone that's very good at, drafting your content, for example. And Alex says the same thing. Godfried, you're watching the wrong gurus. Yeah, I think so. And generally, if anyone calls himself a guru, that is also an indication that you're watching the wrong ones. Other people generally are like, don't call me a guru. I'm just doing my stuff here. Sam says you're starting a new site and you just finished up SERP analysis for 650 keywords, but we probably discussed before, but yeah, you're probably overdoing it. That's fine. The problem, as long as you're taking action and moving forward, one issue is people will start finding some keywords and then they get stuck in this research phase, and it's like they spend too much time researching before doing anything. But as long as you're starting your site, you're in good shape. Carthos says, Google is an AI company. I don't think they'll punish AI content, only bad content. Well, I think that's the risk. I think people end up publishing, AI content that isn't fixed or massaged to make it better. The expectations are off. Denise says, thanks for going live. If you were beginning a site specifically for the purpose of reselling it within 2 years, are there special things you would be sure to do right from the beginning? That's an awesome question. I could do a whole podcast episode on that. Let's think for a second while I get a drink. I'm drinking a lot of coffee today, so I'm almost certainly going to crash. I had too many beers yesterday and then didn't sleep that well because of the beers, so the coffee's doing the job though, but I'm probably going to pass out super early tonight. Okay. Here's the thing. You want to start a site. You want to resell it within 2 years. So there's a few things that you should do. One, I'm gonna say you potentially should get an existing blog, maybe that's poorly monetized, or an age domain to get sort of a head start. So if you're reselling it within 2 years, you're potentially looking at 6 months to a year of sandbox time where the growth is going to be very slow. By the way, if you have the opportunity, hit the thumbs up. We got like 8 likes so far. I think we can get a few more. So if I answered your question, hit the thumbs up and I'll appreciate it. Thank you. One of the other areas is keeping very clear, SOPs. If you could deliver those, that's really good. If you are monetizing with an affiliate business model, it can be really helpful to manage the links in a smart way. So for example, you can use a tool like Pretty Links to put a link into a specific affiliate offer, say with like share a sale. So you could put it in there, but a lot of times you end up with companies switching how they're implementing their affiliate program. So sometimes you have to go and change a bunch of links. But if you manage your links using something like Pretty Link, there's a lot of different apps that do that or plugins that do it. But the point is you're able to just change the link one time. If you're using Amazon, it's very helpful to do not use the shortened link. Use the longer link format for your Amazon links that you can see your tracking ID. That way, if you sell your site, someone can go in, do a search and replace all the tracking IDs, so you don't have to go and do this manually. It's very tedious and time consuming. And I think there are some tools that can do it, but it's easier if you just have the long link in there. The other thing is, and it would shift over time, but it'd be great when you're leading up to the sell to have a roadmap of what the site can do in the future. So it could look like other content that you're going to add. It could look like other products that you could promote. It can look like adding an email list and a specific sales funnel for your own digital products or others. But essentially it's a plan. Now, if you're just starting it, you may not have, a fully developed plan. Maybe you only know what you're going to do for the first year. But as time goes on, you'll be more familiar with what you can add. And if you are selling a site and you can deliver a plan on what you would do and how you would do it and give it to them, that's a huge value add. The other thing, just in general is, keeping track of metrics and trends. And if you're using specific VAs or writers or something like that, have them as a resource. Now, you may have to check with them and see if they'd continue working, but if you have like the the people that you've hired in the past, that's great because you could just say, here's the suppliers that we've used in the past. So if you think about it like a, brick and mortar business, and someone was going to sell that, then you'd expect to see all these different pieces that they say, oh, here's the manager we used, here's our staff, here's the supplier for all the products we sell, here's some other contacts, here's all the stuff to run the business. That's what you want to deliver. So if you can do that, there'll be a huge value add, and it kind of looks like you have your shit together. And that's a good thing overall, just from an impression standpoint with whoever will potentially purchase your site. All right. Walter says, what's the best tool for seeing how much traffic a competitor is getting? You look at Ahrefs and SimilarWeb, but the results often vary. I would say Ahrefs is probably a little more accurate, but generally I've seen Ahrefs underestimate because there's more long tail traffic that gets to a site often, but SimilarWeb is like way too high. So in general, this is a very broad way to look at it, but Ahrefs is often going to underestimate the traffic by, maybe like 2 to 4x or so, something like that. It may not be quite that far off, but usually a site is going to be getting a lot more traffic than Ahrefs is noting. Before we get into more questions here, I want to point out that I'm going live tomorrow with my friends WP Eagle and from Niche Website Builders for the Niche Lifestyle Show. Tomorrow, we're talking about happiness, and I'll be slightly more prepared than I was today, but probably not much more. We have a nice discussion, and Mark and Adam join us. A couple of weeks ago, I think, someone mentioned, I think it was Mark or Adam, talked about happiness, and I was like, oh, I'm into that. I've actually done a show with my co-host, Carl Jensen, on the Mile High 5 podcast on happiness. So it's something I've thought about. I haven't read very many books on the topic, but I'm kind of aware, and I'm generally a happy person. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and could turn into a full therapy session. That's tomorrow at 8 a.m. Mountain Time. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, you can subscribe and, check out all that stuff. That's tomorrow. Kuzon, what's going on? And Amelia says, I was in the Google Sandbox for 9 months. Now your site is getting indexed in the console, the Google Search Console, but when you look up your site in Google, none of your blog posts show up. So it sounds like you're in a spot where your site has been crawled, but not indexed. So it's not indexing it for some reason. Do you have any backlinks pointing to your site? So through many conversations, one of the key differentiators from people who are having no issue with their indexing or rankings or anything like that, they seem to have some backlinks. Most of the people who have trouble with indexing, even Sandbox or otherwise, they typically have very few or no backlinks. So just curious. And what have people seen out there? If you have a site and it's indexed and everything's going fine, do you have many backlinks? That's my observation, not a study, just from talking to people. Benny says, what are some tips for choosing a niche? So I like to make sure that there are at least some searches going on. So you want to make sure people are searching for it in Google. So use a keyword research tool. It doesn't matter which one. You can use any of the tools out there. A lot of times I use KW Finder. And then the other piece, which some people debate, I recommend you pick something you're interested in. You don't have to be passionate about it. You just have to be at least a little bit interested. So that'll keep you motivated when things are getting tough, when you're losing motivation, at least you're interested in a topic and you'll have that drive going for you. So those are the main areas of, if you see some competition, that's probably good. Some people are like, how much is too much competition? Well, it depends on your timeline. And if you are passionate about something, it gives you a little bit more of sort of not a free pass, but if you're interested in the topic and it's something that you're going to be interested in for years, you have a longer timeline. And the competition doesn't matter as much because you're interested in the topic and you're probably going to stick with it a little bit longer. Let's see. Ku says, if you have 100 posts and you have no traffic, is something wrong? Probably, yes. It depends on how old your site is. So if you did publish 100 posts, but your site's only like a month old, you could still be in the sandbox and maybe you need a little bit more time. So how old is your site, Ku? So Rob says, Google doesn't allow AI content on new AdSense sites. You just had 2 new sites rejected due to AI content. And that is interesting. Yeah, so I think, Google doesn't want sort of automated or AI type content, but many of the people that argue for the AI content, they're saying, if it's good content, how can anyone know that that it's AI generated? Which I happen to agree with. I mean, if someone goes and edits it and it reads fine, then it's probably okay. But I would not be surprised if that happens more often. Adam says, how do I really scale and take my blogs to the next level? You're currently running 3 sites, doing 25 posts per month. All 3 are growing, but it's slow. How do I really explode and accelerate? Stop working on 3 sites and just work on one of them. That'll 3x the amount of work that you're doing on the individual site. And that is something I say all the time. People are like, I want to have a portfolio. I want to do this or do that. And if you actually watch the interview that I did with my friend Rob Atkinson, and basically he was dabbling with a few sites. One of them took off and it fucking exploded. It was huge. And then it was so clear that he should just stop working on everything else. And it's very clear when one explodes like that. But if you're spreading yourself thin with, 3 sites, of course you're going to make slower progress. So you'll be less stressed out too if you just work on the one site. So that's what you do. You can work on one site instead of 3, and then do more of what is working. So you probably have some, these sites are growing. So you probably know what's working well. So do more of that and optimize more of that kind of work. And Alex does say that they're finding niches on his stream later, and it starts in just a few minutes. And Sonia says you're at 30K sessions, you're stuck for a bit, you're trying to get to 50K. You're posting articles, but you wonder if there's a more strategic approach to get there faster. So, there's only a few thumb screws you could turn. So you could publish more content, that's good. You can improve your old content, update it, and you can get backlinks. Those are like the 3 things you can do. So you may be able to add some internal links, which is a subset of the backlink thing, but it's either content or backlinks. If you're posting more content, go improve some of the old stuff and get some backlinks. So Sonia, are you doing any link building or promotion for your site? Dave says, what tips do I have for finding writers? So I have a couple posts on writers and hiring writers. I typically hire from Upwork, and I have the specific job postings and some other templates. But in general, I find it easier just to have very clear directions and instructions, and then hire people, see how they produce content, see how it is to work with them. Do they turn things in on time? Does the content look fine? Do they take direction? And I just like to test people out. So that the main tip is just to test people quickly, evaluate them quickly, and either hire them or don't hire them. That's what I like to do. You can try to spend more time interviewing and stuff, but just for writing, I think you should just hire them, see what they could generate, and go from there. Sam says, what do I think of the SEMrush keyword difficulty metric? I haven't looked at it or used SEMrush in a while. I used to use it all the time, but I think the keyword difficulty scores on all of the tools are somewhat interesting to look at, can help you prioritize your keywords and give you an idea of what's going on, but they all have their flaws. They all have their inaccuracy. So I would say, use it as a way to prioritize. It's not always going to be right. It's not always going to be wrong, but it can be valuable to prioritize. And I don't have specific opinions on any of them, not too much anyway. All right, Amelia says, your site's brand new. You don't have any backlinks. You've just been writing. Okay, so this is an interesting piece, and I think link building is very important. Most people won't argue with the fact that links are indeed important, but if you don't have the backlinks, if you don't have the authority, whether you get them naturally and organically, or if you go out there and promote your site, then the backlinks, make a huge difference. And I think it's one of the main differentiators between whether or not your site is indexed, if your new content gets indexed quickly and ranks or not. And Amelia says, oh, you got 200 posts so far. That is a lot. And, again, it's one of those things where, certainly if you just keep publishing, like, you probably will get enough momentum. But it's like, if you start with a link building at the beginning, it's probably going to move things faster. Everyone wants to, work on it differently, and that is totally fine. And quick other plug for Odys. I just want to give a shout out. I didn't record a clip ahead of time, so I'm just going to talk about it. But yeah, you can check out the marketplace over on Odys. That's odys.global, and they have premium age domains. So they already have backlinks. So to our point of backlinks here, if you're able to find a domain that has backlinks, it's in your niche, you actually can purchase one and then redirect it to your site. You can even recreate the old URLs. You'd probably want to write them uniquely. You wouldn't want to use the old stuff from the Wayback Machine, but it can give you an idea of what content was out there and maybe how to organize it. You would just not want to copy it directly because, from a copyright perspective, you'd want to respect that. But the cool thing with an age domain is those links are already there. The age is already there. And if you're able to, redirect it to a blog that has like 200 posts, it can be a really amazing way to all of a sudden get, several dozen links. And if it's niche relevant, and if it makes sense, then that's a great acquisition. So thanks to Odys Global, you can get $100 in your account if you use my affiliate link. And if you buy something, I might get a commission. All right. Daniel says, if I write an article, but it's edited heavily with Grammarly, does that make it AI content? I don't think so. However, I can see people arguing for that. But at that point, you're splitting hairs. Would that be different than like a writing coach saying that you need to change some things? Maybe not that different. It is different though if you put in like one keyword and then you get out like an article on the other side, or if you like deliver a outline and then you get a full article on the other side. That's a little bit different. And then if you don't edit it and it's kind of shitty, that's what we're looking out for. Daniel says, Daniel M says, if my new website content is constantly getting picked up on Google Discover via Search Console, is it an indicator that it will rank well on search over time? I don't have a huge amount of experience, especially on the long term. I've had some stuff pop on Google Discover, but I don't think so. My main data point here is just an N of 1, but I talked to Olga. Her interview is on the channel here. She was getting a lot of traffic from Google Discover because she was posting often. When she stopped posting often, she lost a lot of traffic because she wasn't getting Google Discover and it wasn't subsequently ranking. So I don't think that it is necessarily an indicator if it will rank better over time, but I would say it's a good sign. So I don't know if it's an indicator, but it's a good sign. All right. Female trader says, does the stock market niche still work on a website or only on YouTube? Affiliate store got more traffic, but when I deleted it, I focused more on trading related articles and it stopped. I don't know. I don't have experience in that. I would say the stock market niche is probably still very popular on websites. I would say it's probably super competitive because of the amount of money involved. So that's one of them where unless you're super into it, I would probably skip it. It's, your money or your life. It's your money specifically. So it is an area that people are very interested in, but I don't know about any of the other details. It can work on YouTube. It can work on a website. People are interested in the stock market. What's up, Jason? Good to see you. Sonia says, I'm not doing any link building. You did some internal linking and your pages per session increased. That's good. All right. We got a few minutes left here. I know Alex over at WP Eagle is going live. And don't forget, tomorrow, we got the Niche Lifestyle Show on this channel. Pretty sure it's on this channel. All right. Johnny says Charles Float analyzed 20 sites and his initial findings were that internal linking was the #1 recurring theme for the update. Lack of internal linking and non-contextual internal linking. Interesting. Very interesting. That's certainly a good thing to have regardless, but I didn't know. I didn't know Charles did that analysis. Someone is asking about AI content. Does it work or not? I don't know. I have little experience. I think Alex did had a site or has a site that has a lot of AI content. I can't remember if it was impacted much by the update, but I haven't had great experience with the AI writers. However, I keep saying that I'm going to do some sort of a comparison or something like that. We'll see. What I need to do is just like block out 2 days, 1 week, and I could just spend like 6 hours a day on it where I just like dive in, use the tool, get some results, publish a video, and then I can speak more knowledgeably about it. Koo says the site was starting to get traffic, but then the Google update hit it. That sucks. All right. Will organic links from unrelated sites hurt your site? No, not specifically. If they're organic links, it'll probably help your site. John says, multitasking. I left my old site to focus on a new local site. I have 300 low competition keywords in the real estate area. You write the post yourself. You're not special. New local site is fun, and I can do good research. Writing reporter-worthy content will get backlinks, or doing research no one can be bothered doing until they write their own content. Okay, cool. And Koo says the site's 10 months old. Yeah, and Cyprian says, take a shot when someone mentions AI content. The Doug drinking games. Yeah, pretty funny. There are always many questions, but once I get those couple videos out, then I could just direct people to it. The funny thing is, and I know this from experience, so I've been doing live streams pretty consistently since like 2017 or so. And people would ask the same questions often. And then some cool people in the chat said, oh man, why don't you just create an FAQ section and then you could direct people to that. Well, the funny thing about that is people still ask the question and then I would direct them there. And the thing is, they want to hear me talk about it live. So even though I created those questions, which, doing these lets you know exactly what people are asking about. So, it's good to publish the content, but it turns out people didn't really want to go and read this stuff. They just wanted to ask about it. So over time, I just realized, people are just going to keep asking the same stuff, like AI content. So I know even if I did a series of videos and reviewed all the different AI tools and showed how to use them and compared them and talked about what I liked and didn't like, and then directed people to the videos, they would still say, hey, you know what? Does AI content work or not? So my expectations are more realistic now. I thought if I wrote like an FAQ section, people would stop asking those questions. I could just say, go read the FAQ. But really, you want to have like the back and forth in a live stream like this, even if it's, mind numbing to answer the same ones. Okay, John says, what can you do with your content to entice backlinks? Promoting a YouTube video from a well-established domain worked for me and it's getting ranked results on the first page. All right. So generally, and I think you were kind of getting onto it with what you were describing, but if you can put together sort of data, right? Either special reports or surveys that you run yourself, or if you're consolidating data from other sources, if you have data that people can reference, and if you put together graphics to go along with it. So if you have the data and you can put together different charts and graphs and illustrations, people will probably find those. They'll see if it's original data, that's fantastic because then you could actually tell people that you've put together original data. John, I did an interview with someone named Jake, and he has a pet website. You could find it in my archive back there, but he would do a survey on his readers, and then he releases a report, an annual report, where he he actually puts together a report where he shares the data. It's a PDF people can download, I think, and basically people reference that, and he could send it out to bigger outlets, and that attracts links because it's original data. If you don't have the ability to collect original data, you can at least curate different studies and reference them, of course, but you could put it together in a package. Philip says, Google update traffic has all come back and the Search Console impressions are through the roof. Should you worry about reverting it back and losing the pages again, or should I improve them and hope? When you say reverting it back to what? Did you make changes after the Google update? I would probably just improve them and hope is what I would do. All right. And Sam says, get a t-shirt with my main statement about AI. John says it's time for a strum. All right. Yeah, I think it's about that time. Alex is getting started. So, and I think I made it through the questions here. I don't have my chair out over here for playing guitar. We'll see what we can do though. All right. So this is where I play guitar just for a minute. We're going to tune it up. Always the funnest part of a show. This is open D. Humidity changed a little bit, so that's why it was a little bit off there. So I just strum for a minute. Alex is on. Yeah, so certainly check him out. He's going to talk about choosing a niche, I think. Is that what he said? That sounds right. I can't remember. I've been watching this guy, Charlie Parr from Minnesota, and I'm trying to remember. I kind of was trying to figure out one of his songs here. It's kind of fast. I don't know if I can do it, but I'll try here. You know what? I'll just fuck around a little. Maybe at the end I'll do.